Welcome everyone. Good evening. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 4th of September, year 2024. I hope everyone is having a fantastic time. I'm going to welcome our panel members. We have April back after a hiatus of one session. So April is a psychic, a medium, has quite a few modalities of healing under her. If y'all are more than welcome to have one-on-one sessions. Message April on Facebook Messenger and have a one-on-one session with her. April is back. She's been doing the panel, working on the panel, like for the past couple of years, right, April? Welcome, April. Thank you for being here. And then we have Lakshmi here, who is, she also is somebody that holds our workshops, leads our workshops on mantra chanting, and as well as participates in our group meditations. So welcome, Lakshmi. David has joined us online. Thank you, David, for being here. And then Patricia, who's part of our core group of meditators, is here. Good evening, Patricia. And I see Sri Lakshmi joining.
So, good evening, Poonamji.
Good evening, Sri Lakshmi. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your presence. Grateful for it. So the question today, April, is somebody asked, is reinventing ourselves a form of reincarnation? Reincarnation as re-identification with ego? The question mark, right? It's a question. I've been through multiple losses and people prescribe that I should reinvent myself. I feel like I don't have any energy left to reinvent myself. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Hello, David.
So, yeah, hi, David. So anytime that you reinvent yourself, recreate yourself, it is like being born again. And I think we do that many times in our life, actually. And we want to do that. You want to continue to recreate yourself, to reincarnate, to be reborn. We don't want to stay the same. You have some core characteristics, core personality traits that will always stay the same. If you are a hyper person or an adventurous person, or you're dependable, or you're just kind or good-hearted, those qualities will stay the same for the most part. But you don't want to necessarily stay the same in life, because as life evolves, you want to evolve. We are evolving beings. So it's important to not judge that, the changing, the reinventing yourself. Reincarnation and letting go of the ego. I have heard some people say that that is like a rebirth. It's not reincarnation literally, as in your soul is coming down. That's a whole different topic. But it is more like a reinventing yourself. And the ego, each time you do that, the ego would be, you would be identifying with the ego. You would be identifying less and less with the ego. You're shedding parts of the ego or parts of the shadow that don't necessarily fit with you anymore. And that's actually a good thing. You want that. We don't want to stay the same. I don't have energy left to reinvent myself. That's an interesting statement. So it poses that maybe you've been through a lot, or you feel like you've been through a lot, and that it would take a lot of energy to reinvent yourself. I've been in spaces in my life several times where I just feel like I don't have the energy. And anytime I get into that space, I do more soul searching. I go deeper inside. I actually do more energy work. I do more to find out why I'm in that space, because the energy of the creator, which is you know, within you is one of creation. It is one of inventing. And if you're not a match to it, you need to know why. So I would do more soul searching into why have you lost the motivation, which is like a depression, which is a low energy, and then do a lot of energy work to try to clear that. So that's what comes up to me at first. Multiple losses, and people prescribe that I should reinvent myself. That's also interesting, right? Because multiple losses. So anytime there's a loss in your life, whether it's a loss of job, it's a loss of dog, it's a loss of a person, a loss of a home, loss is always one about gratitude. It's about learning to appreciate what you have and being in the present moment. It's also always a lesson about love, like being in the present moment and loving what you have where you are and enjoying life. It's about telling people that you love them. It's always a lesson about that. Even if you don't really know the person and you hear about a death, there's times where it'll make you just kind of think about, where am I in life? What am I doing? Where am I going? What do I want to do? What are some things that I haven't done that I would like to do? So it is, in a sense, always a reinventing event in that way. The should is, that's where the pressure in the statement comes in, that I should reinvent myself. We don't want to, we can take other people's opinions, but we always want to go within and see if it matches with you. Do you like who you are? Do you like how you are? Are you happy? Do you have peace? Do you have unconditional love for yourself? And if you do, and you are happy with who you are, then you're fine. But if there are pieces that aren't necessarily matching, those are the pieces I would reinvent.
Incredibly amazing. Thank you so much, April, for your guidance. So I feel where they say, I feel like I don't have any energy left to reinvent myself. It seems like this person still is under grief. So I would actually, like my feedback, my humble feedback would be, one, we cannot, when somebody is experiencing so many losses, I don't think I can put myself in their shoes and say, oh, it's going to be easy to reinvent yourself or something of that nature. I don't know how sad you're feeling, what kind of despair you're in, what kind of grief you're in, how grief-stricken are you, right, April? So first I would say is, like the lower energy may be that you're grief-stricken. So handle your grief, like surrender to your grief first, right? The first step to any kind of loss of this kind, because Eckhart really explains it very well in one of the videos when he did the webcast in 2008 for with Oprah. He talks about that when we experience a loss, right? A loss takes place. Something gets taken away from us, like a parent passes away, loved one, like father, mother, or somebody passes away, or whatever. It may be a financial loss. I don't know what kind of, like I've experienced. They didn't really describe what kind of losses. When that gets taken away, there's a void that is created, right? And he says that, like, if we surrender to the void, it is like, you know, it almost is like there is this beautiful tapestry, and somebody has made like this, etched out this beautiful tapestry. And when we surrender to it, when we have that level of presence power, that we are surrendered to the loss, then there's like a light, the light of presence shines through. And then we start to see the magnificence of this tapestry. it was a really beautiful analogy that he talked about, right? But that when we surrender to that void that this loss created, because one, with the loss, like I really feel about people who are caregivers for their parents, right? Caregiver for parent, caregiver for your child. Like, let's say you've lived 20, 21 years caregiving for your child and totally identified with caregiving for the child. And now that child walks away and says, oh, I'm going to go to college. And when they go to college, they're just gone, right? They don't want to have any association with you. Like my manager was just saying that her daughter could not wait until like she was back in college, right? Leaving her, right? So it's like that loss, that void is being created. And when we don't surrender to it, then that is what creates the pain. That is what creates the grief. Because the non-surrender, the resistance to what is where the pain arises. That's why there is, what does this person say? I feel like I don't have any energy left to reinvent myself, right? So that low energy, I'm thinking that is what that is. The other thing that Dr. Joe Dispenza, I think it's in Becoming Supernatural. He talks about this, excuse me, a close friend of his is like a professor, I think. He's a really successful professor in a college and is trying to get some kind of tenureship or something. And that college doesn't give him the tenureship. Then he loses his marriage or something, like all kinds of, like doing the work, doing Dr. Joe's work. He loses his tenureship. He loses his marriage. They're like all kinds of losses. And Dr. Joe says when things get taken away from you, you actually get to bring your energy back, because your energy is leaking into the marriage, the broken marriage, the tenureship or something. So energy is coming back. He always says when things get taken away from you, and there are so many people on the spiritual path that if you ever ask them, like if I were to ask April, how did she become so spiritual? There will be so many losses connected with that spirit, getting on the spiritual path and being like this steady on the spiritual path, right? Does that make sense? So it's like, so Dr. Joe says, so he tells this professor, you know, now look how much energy is coming back to you, right? How much energy do you have to yourself? And sure enough, this professor leaves, I think, and then that same university calls him back and makes him the president, or like gives him a really good whatever tenureship or good position. Then he finds another relationship, but he's still doing Dr. Joe's work, right? So being in loss does not mean that that is the end all be all. We have to surrender to the loss first, right? With that, I'll go to Lakshmi. Lakshmi, what comes up for you? Thank you.
I was exactly going to say those points, because all that negative energy that we have inherited is seeking release through us. So it is just so important for us to accept it and surrender to it. And looks like she has some good friends with good intentions. So I agree to all the April's points that gratitude is one of the things that she needs to cultivate. Yes, I don't know what kind of losses right now she is facing. So because I'm not in her shoes, I'm not going to say that all this work is going to be easy. It takes time. It's not going to be a quick fix or anything. But I have been where she has been, and all of us, we have gone through our share of difficulties and challenges. And only then, you realize that until you resist you are the one putting yourself through all the suffering. There is no external enemy, it's we ourselves make this earth into a I also think there is no hell or heaven outside. We make our own hell and our own heaven. So yes, I am so sorry for all the losses that you're going through, but each and every one of those loss is a gift that it's a gift wrap, because all that energy is seeking release through you. So bless it and wish it well as you are sitting with that sadness. So embrace all that. You cannot just push it away, because if you keep pushing away that sadness, it'll come back to you. So embrace it and say thank you to it. I know it is all going to be really difficult to do all this work, but saying thank you to that difficulty and gratitude, acceptance, surrender, and all of these practices, in some way or the other, you feel that you are reinventing yourself when you start doing all these practices. So good luck. Looks like you want to try your best. So these are the 2 cents that I can offer to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Grateful eternally. Patricia, do you have anything to say before you speak? I just wanted to say something about the reinventing yourself. So the other piece that Dr. Joe, in Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, we learn is Dr. Joe always says he has no time for the past, nor does he have any time. He has no time for the past. And that's what a loss is about, right? We get stuck in the memories of what we have experienced, the loss, like whatever loss we've experienced, stories come up, right, April? That's how a loss is, right? The mental movie making starts about the loss. So what Dr. Joe Dispenza says is always be married to your envision of future self and be married to it. So the reinventing part would be, yes, once we get into the state of surrender, once we say, yes, I've accepted this loss completely, fully and completely, then now from here, what is my new self? So my new self, yes, in the past, I was somebody who would be a victim, or in the past, I would be somebody who created stories out of my past. But now I'm going to be this new self that is going to experience joy, that is going to be in love with life, that is going to experience being an unlimited genius, that is going to experience nobility, that's going to experience being graceful, right? So we make like these, he has this inspiring words in Becoming Supernatural. Everybody can buy that book and read it through. And you kind of like move towards that new self. And if you look at his stories of transformation, where people have healed of cancer, any kind of health issue, vertebrae fractured, they've healed themselves of the vertebrae fracture, right? It's not that just Dr. Joe. All of them were married to this future, and they work towards this future self that is healed, the future self that is whole, this future self that is he calls us unlimited genius, right? So unlimited genius, they experience themselves as an unlimited genius. So that would be what I would say is reinventing yourself is more towards let go of your past ways of reacting and acting and conditioned patterns, and move towards this future self where you're experiencing these elevated emotions, and you'll see how life changes for you. It'll automatically change. With that, Patricia, you can give examples of how life has changed for you recently. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a really, really great question. And all you ladies together I mean, such a beautiful answer, because each one of you touched on a very important component of it. I didn't even realize I went through multiple reinventing myself, because I didn't want to call it that way. Because I think the first time someone suggested it, it took me, I was fragile. My ego was fragile. And because I struggled with other people's approval, acceptance, you know, and so from the time I remembered, my mom, with a good spirit of her, she's always happy, light, and all these things. She wanted to me be like her, very social. And she used to take me to events when I was still in school, in elementary school. And they had like performances. And then at the end, they would always ask people from the audience, who wants to come up, volunteer, and they would do something on the stage, some kind of contest or whatever. My mom would wanted me to just go. It's like, go, go, go. I was like, no way, I'm not going. So this whole thing about having to be different, having to change yourself to enjoy life, right? Because she saw that I was very closed and shy, didn't really, was like her, loving to dance, loving people, loving music, loving light, loving flowers. I mean, you know, she still has that nature at 74. And I had more of my father's personality, who still is very close in himself. So I felt that she was not accepting me and telling me to be different. So even though she was suggesting reinventing myself, because she saw that I'm alone, I'm sad, you know, I don't have friends, I don't just go out and play, I'm just home, and you know, like just a blue kid, basically. So that's what she was saying, but I didn't feel, I don't know, how is it with reinventing April and Poonam and Lakshmi? It's like, do you have to feel first good about who you are and just wanting something more? Or you're so sick of the ego and you're so miserable and depressed, and like Eckhart says, like, it must be another way. I don't want to live with myself anymore. And then you're being forced, you know, into reinventing yourself. It's almost like it's not your choice in this case. It's just, or maybe it is a grace to just pushing you, because they know that Grace knows what you're capable of, and just feeling sorry for yourself and being a victim is not what the source wants for you. So that would be my question. And my other question is about the reincarnation part. I know it's a little not really about reinventing, but how do you feel about, I mean, I kind of sensed that my daughter being born like within a year from 9/11, I mean, that was, the doctor told me her due date was 9/11 in Poland when I went to visit my mom. But when I came back and I went to my gynecologist, none of them would even mention 9/11. They would say 9/10 because it was within a year from the terrorist attack. So nobody even want to mention. And I felt that it's almost like a soul, that one of the souls that, you know, was lost in 9/11, that's reincarnated in her. But obviously she doesn't, like, no, what are you talking about? And my cousin that was visiting from Poland, his son was born also like 2 weeks before my daughter, at the end of August. And I was making a joke when we went actually to the memorial, and I said, well, you know, probably were here. That's why you're so connected to it. You might be wanting visiting the places. And he's, yeah, haha. He's young, so he made a joke. I was probably the janitor, you know, stuff like that. But is that something that could be, or I don't know, how they're recycled of souls? Thank you. So those two questions. Do you have to be accepting of yourself to consciously reinvent yourself? And I guess then you'll have energy to do so, and you have the beautiful vision of who you want to be, how you want to contribute to this world, you know, what creative stuff you want to do, and do it in joy. Or you're being pushed by the universe because you're so miserable that you can't continue like that.
Thank you, Patricia. Grateful for the input. April, you want to respond to her question and then I'll respond. Thank you.
So it's both. Most of us change because we're miserable. Most of us change because we're suffering, because we've been suffering, because we want to be different, because there's a part of us that knows there's something different or better. If you want to use that word, better. There's part of us that knows that we can be happy and there is happiness out there. Once you achieve that state of being able to maintain happiness, present moment, peace, again, the creation never stops. You are a creator being. You are part of source, which is creation itself, that continues to evolve and evolve and evolve. So you will always continue to reinvent yourself. And actually, if you think about how it really breaks down is you are actually, because of the particles and the particle waves, you are reinventing yourself every second. You are coming in every second. It's a new you every minute, actually, is how it's really working, right? Now, as far as the 9/11, I think that they probably didn't mention 9/11 because it was such a tragic event. They didn't want to mention it. They didn't want to say it. It did hold a lot of, again, we have that collective consciousness. It held a lot of grief, a lot of negative energy. So they didn't want to say, oh, be happy, your child's being born on 9/11. I think that's more of it versus is your child a soul from that timeline? I don't necessarily think so. Now, that doesn't mean that that couldn't have happened, that there couldn't be a soul that did come back very quickly. That can happen. Most souls, you know, there's a period after you pass that you go to the other side and you have a review. And because we go through so much here, there's so much learning and so much we take on. There is like, we want to wait. We want to chill out for a minute and not just jump right back in. But however, that's not always the case. Some people immediately reincarnate, some reincarnate within a year, some it's 1,000 years. So it's different for every soul. But I really think with your daughter, it's more about the negative energy around that date versus she's a soul. And then what was the other part of the reincarnation thing that you asked?
No, I think that was it.
Okay.
As far as is it possible that she could be, but
yeah, I don't think she is. It doesn't necessarily feel like she is, because
okay, I mean that's good. That's good. It doesn't matter. I mean, she is here.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't really think she is. And then again, so when you get to a certain point, the reinventing yourself is like, you want to do it. You want to reinvent yourself because you want to keep growing and you want to keep evolving. And the more that you evolve and grow, the closer in a way you become to source. The more connected to source you become, which always gives us that bliss feeling.
And this is it enough to have an intention? Like, I want to grow, or you do have to
Yeah, you
completely
don't.
know like how you're
No,
gonna
you
be,
don't.
what you're gonna be in details.
No, you don't have to know. Now, if you want an intention or you want to manifest something, then that's where the intention comes from. But you can just want to be peaceful without a definition to it. So if you talk to Joe Dispenza, he's going to tell you to have a very clear definition of what you want. If you talk to Eckhart, he's going to tell you to not have a very clear and be attached to a very clear definition, right? And even with Joe Dispenza, he has you be very clear with what you want to manifest. However, he does not tell you to be attached to it. Neither one of them tell you to be attached to what you want to be or how you want to be. So for me, it's always about how do you want to be? And then from there, that determines your behaviors and your actions and your words and even your synchronicities. But I'm not attached to anything. So if I want to be peaceful, and I respond peacefully, I react peacefully, I think peacefully, right?
So
But I'm not attached to, oh, this is what peaceful means and it has to fit in this box of this definition.
So do you mean that is it how you be or how you want to feel? Because like
how you
is it a feeling?
It is a feeling, but it's like being in the present moment. It's more of a being, which then gives you the feeling. I want to be peaceful. That means I'm peaceful, my essence is peaceful, my energy is peaceful, my soul is peaceful, my whole being is peaceful. But I'm not attached to what peaceful means or what it looks like. Because like with Eckhart, it could look like I'm standing in line at Walmart. It can look like I'm sitting on a park bench. It can look like anything. So I'm not attached to what it looks like, but I'm being that way inside.
Even in traffic.
Right. So pick how you want to be. Now, if you're wanting to manifest health or a house or whatever, that's where the intention comes in, but you still can't be attached to the outcome because you might have a picture of a house, but you end up with a house with 3 more rooms in it. Right?
Not to limit the universe, right?
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, April.
Beautiful, April. Grateful for the feedback and wisdom. So one of the things that I mean, even Dr. Joe at the very end of the coherence healing, when we are in the at the retreat, the very last coherence healing, he will say, so now feel the love that you're feeling, continue to feel the love that you're feeling, and then what will this love do? How will it give? Right? So one of the things that I've noticed, Patricia, is the more I give, the more love that I experience in that giving. So when this person, you know, when we sit in our victim story, when we sit in our grief, when we sit in our depression, when we sit in whatever so-called negative emotion, right? Our soul is not growing. It's stuck, it's frozen, right? It's frozen. It's the consciousness that is expressing through this form is no longer growing. But the moment we know that, hey, by selflessly giving, so then the person needs to figure out, if this person were to figure out, okay, how can I selflessly give? Right? What is it in this moment that I can do where I can selflessly give? And just make that like that, the stepping stone, right? Like the rope that you climb the mountain with. You know how the rope has little knots and you're climbing the mountain using the little knots? Like you're climbing the little knots by using that little, because, so Dr. Joe does not say you have to envision yourself as something. Like he never says, because his whole changing boxes meditation is about, you don't know what that new, when you change the box, where you change the box to, you don't know which of the infinite possibilities are you pulling. What you or anybody is actually going to work towards is just the feeling that when I'm in that new possibility, then I'm abundant, I'm feeling the freedom, I'm feeling the joy, I'm in love with life, right? Like how he finishes Center of the Magnet. I'm in love with life. I'm exactly one with the divine, right? The divinity, I'm experiencing the divinity within myself. I'm one with the divine. As we experience the feeling, so it's more, you know, the thought sends the signal out, and the emotional field is what draws the experience into our reality of this present moment. So if you cannot experience those elevated emotions, and that's why in the beginning when you were saying, how are you feeling, Poonam? That's what I move towards. Like even if my energy gets pulled, right? Something happens at work and my energy gets pulled down a little bit, then again, like in the evening when I'm doing another meditation or I'm doing another, whenever I'm doing the meditation, right? I'm moving towards that elevated, like I'm zooming towards the elevated emotion again, right? I'm trying to do like synchronizing your energies to love, where you're synchronizing your energy to love and joy, right? You're pulling that experience of love and joy. Or I'm doing some kind of synchronizing your energies to the mystical. So I'm feeling the awe and wonder and surprise and into all the possibilities, right? So I wanted to bring up one thing, and April, I mean, we can talk for another 5-10 minutes. I don't want to go long because I know Patricia is tired. So one of the things I came across, like one of the podcasts, just because I listened to like Andre, the Next Level, what is it called? Next Level Soul, and another podcast called Know Thyself. It's very similar to our name, right? So they had this person called Richard Rudd, and Richard Rudd talks about what is called gene keys. He talks about, and this is very similar to what Dr. Joe says, right? So Richard Rudd says each of our genes, I mean, he talks about 64 genes, and each of these genes has a shadow, has a gift associated with it, and then the third thing is what he calls a siddhi, which in India, it's like a transcendent aspect to that gene key, right? Like if you take gene key 1, then it has its, like maybe gene key 1's shadow is discord. There'll be a gift towards it, right? Discord's gift. What is the gift in the discord? And all that is locked in our genes. Can you believe it? The
Yeah,
whole,
I've
go ahead.
heard him. I have heard him before, and I think I actually did watch that same podcast.
Okay.
And it's simply amazing. It is just
Isn't that
simply
crazy?
mind blowing. Yeah, and the amount of information, the amount of data, and it is 64 genes, but
Gene keys.
it's
Mhm.
broken down.
Mhm.
Like the way it's so much.
Can you
But
tell me
and
the name of the author once more?
Richard Rudd. I'll put it in the chat.
yeah, it's the gene keys. I've heard of that, and it's also like that and the other thing that's called it's called human design. Um, it's just simply amazing. I have looked at that. I've listened to that. I'm aware of it. It's not something I've like really researched and studied, but it is pretty amazing. And
And this is exactly what Dr. Joe is saying. You must welcome Lakshmi. That is exactly what Dr. Joe is saying, right? when we get to the elevated emotions, we are producing a different set of amino acid. We are the peptides that we are, like Louise had a fall, right? She had like a tibia plateau injury. So it's like pretty traumatic, like extreme. If there was a fracture ever on this earth, the TPF is the most severe kind of fracture that you can have of your leg, right? So like I was telling her, like do your mental rehearsals, but it's more about what are you, when you want to bring healing into your body. So these genes, you want to kick off the genes and have them produce the peptides and the amino acids, right? So if you're in, like this person is saying that they are in dejected or feeling not like reinventing themselves, then you are downregulating your genes. You're not upregulating your genes, and you want to upregulate your genes to wholeness and to healing, right? You don't want to downregulate your genes. That is what causes all the chronic illnesses. That's what causes all the diseases, right? So that Gene Keys, I mean, I've just started listening to the audiobook, and it is, oh my God, that book is like this thick, like the physical book. And I'm listening to the audiobook, and it's hours and hours of one key after another. This is the shadow of it. This is the gift of it. And this is the Siddhi in the Gene Key. And it is everything. And it talks about what bring, like he also talks the similar language, like Dr. Norm Shealy. He talks about ring of fire, ring of the different rings that unlocks these genes. But it is amazing. I mean, it's not even amazing. It's like a very, I would say it's like a mind-boggling that our genes all contain all the information that we need. The Akashic field, the access to the Akashic field is available in our genes. We are just not going to that state of contemplation to access it. Like we don't have to ask another question. You don't have to ask Poonam another question. You don't have to ask April another question. We can go, each one of us can go within and access it already, because we were born with that gene. I mean, that access to the Akashic field, we were already born with it. So it was incredible. Like it was mind-boggling that he said that, and I started listening to it. So I still haven't found how do you unlock it, or what is his way of unlocking it. But I kind of know what the key could be, is because Dr. Joe says the same thing, right? That the more you do the meditations, the more you go into the contemplative state, the more you go into the void, is that then you have access to that plasma, then you have access to the Akashic field, then you have access to, you know, the infinite. And that's when you get all the downloads. That's what brings you abundance. That's what brings you the wholeness as well, right? That's what brings you the healing. So, and mental rehearsal. So Dr. Joe talks about a lot of mental rehearsal, right? Like, so for Louise, I would say, like, she would actually imagine that all her bones were getting fused by themselves. Like tomorrow, okay, my bones are all coming back together. Like everything is set back together, right? And during the coherence healing sessions, actually, there are these blue beings. Like people talk a lot about these blue beings, or some beings coming into the healing, and they can set, like if you had an issue with your leg, they can actually like jerk your leg or something, and it's very painful, and they'll set the leg. I mean, they'll set up the leg, like you'll be able to walk. It's like so many stories of that people have started walking right after coherence healing, just because they went into like the love, the infinite love that was created. You know, in the Source documentary, right, Patricia? Summer was the one that picked up this point very clearly. He talked about this scientist that was doing this study, if I'm saying this correctly, the scientist was doing a study on uterine cancer. And he said that every woman that had uterine cancer always had this information, certain information, like electromagnetic frequency had this certain information in the field, right? And then they found out that any woman that did not have uterine cancer, but had this information in the field, also contracted uterine cancer. So that's how Dr. Joe says it's the field that informs matter. It's not matter informing the field. That study is what taught Dr. Joe that it is always the field informing matter. So he always says that change the field and change matter. That's how you change matter to matter. You know, we say we are doing medical medium protocol or whatever, that'll take a long time. Matter to matter, matter to matter, trying to change something will take a very long time. If you want to compress time, then you go into the field and change the field.
So the last thing for me, when you just said that, I wanted to ask, because one of my colleagues, he is actually right now taking a like 3 months or whatever, just liquid diet. And he said that, because he's vegan too, he only eats vegetables, but once or twice a year, he just goes on juices and liquids. And he says that he feels like he can fly because he only gets like pure energy and vitamins and, you know, all the goodies without anything like keeping him down, like staying in his stomach for hours. And so it's easier for him to get on the vibration frequency, higher frequency, because of his diet too. And I know that certain foods have certain vibration, and like I don't even crave meat right now. I haven't been. And it was all my diet because I like how I feel, you know, drinking my juice. So does it help? Or is it kind of what's first, chicken and the egg? If you're getting yourself more on a higher frequency, you naturally don't want to eat anything that is lower frequency.
I mean, as Dr. Joe says, right, Patricia, you can eat the most organic vegan food. You can eat the most organic juices. But if you're if you're vibrating at the level of all these negative emotions, right, then you're just making organic
No, I'm
fear.
saying that, yes,
You're just making. So it depends on the person. If they're doing, whether they are eating meat or they're eating vegetables, right? As long as they can go up to the higher frequencies, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter. To me, at the personal level, yeah, my diet helps me. But it doesn't mean that the person, I mean, there's so many people in Dr. Joe's work that eat meat, and they're the ones that have stories of transformation, where they've reached that mystical state where they have healed themselves of cancer. They've healed themselves of. So diet, he doesn't recommend that diet has anything to do with it. April, you want to talk about that? Thank you.
So it's another question that it's both. It's both. You can become enlightened, and then that can change your diet. You can change your diet, and you can become enlightened. However, what Poonam's saying is true as well, that you could eat the worst food on the planet, but if you vibrate, if your frequency is high, it will never affect you. If you eat all the best foods and then you end up with all the diseases, it is about your frequency within your body. But I've seen both happen. I've seen people become more enlightened and then they therefore change their diet. And then I've also seen by changing the diet, it does raise their frequency. They're eating more fruits and vegetables, and then they start to become enlightened. But I would say that the most important point, though, is your frequency on a normal basis. What is your consistent rate of frequency? So one of the people that I listen to, and I do this, and I've actually been doing this recently a lot. When I want to, like when you, not when I want to, but when you want to create your reality in the way that you would like it to be, and then also how you would like to be again, right? You need to take charge of your frequency, which we do mostly through our thoughts here. Some of it's your body, some of it's the people you're around, your environment, but a lot of it is actually your thoughts. So for the first few seconds of every minute that you can remember, you're talking to yourselves. You're talking to your body. You can talk out loud. You can talk in your head. You can talk out loud. I am strong. I am healthy. I'm abundant. I'm peaceful. I'm happy. Like, say good things to yourself. My cells are strong. My body altogether is stronger than the sun, which is a true fact, right? So talking to yourself, and try to do that. It's almost like a meditation throughout the day. As many times as you can remember, say the top of every hour. Do that just for a few seconds. Go about your day. Then remember again, I am strong. I am healthy. I am well. Say it again. And that energy, we're raising your frequency. We're choosing our presence. We're choosing how we're being. We're also choosing our reality. Because you have to remember, in this time-space continuum, there is a time lag. So therefore, I'm creating my future, right? If I'm, each moment I'm doing this, I'm creating what I want my future to be, because the present is technically, when it comes to manifesting, the past. The present is technically the past, because I already created that 2 days ago, a week ago, a month ago, by what I was thinking and feeling. So if I want a better future, if I want to be happy and peaceful there, I create it now by watching my frequency, my thoughts, my energy, my emotions. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Beautiful. On that note, on that high note, high vibrational note, April, incredibly amazing. Eternally grateful to everyone for joining. Thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity and being here. Lakshmi, Sri Lakshmi. I know Dave dropped, but he may be listening. Thank you so, so much. Eternally grateful to all of you. Many blessings. Much
Thank
love.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
It was a
you.
beautiful
It's our
conversation.
pleasure. It is indeed a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Right? Thank you. Bye.